Hey everyone, it's Gina and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing another Q&A wash day routine where I answer your questions while I'm washing and styling my hair. And today's topic is going to be all about frizz, and we're getting into the nitty-gritty details about why you might be experiencing frizz. Also, if you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Gina and here we talk all things naturally curly hair. I really like simplifying things for beginners, talking about product ingredients and much more. So let's jump into the wash day Q&A. I am going to pull up the questions. My hair is obviously looking rough. I wanted to just start out exactly how my hair usually looks during the week. I didn't even style my hair this week. The last time I washed my hair, I actually did test out one of the products from the line that I'm going to be using today, which is actually from Living Proof. It's their new curl line. It's in these like salmon colored bottles. So I'm going to be trying out some new products. I just wanted to use the curl enhancer for waves and the last time I washed my hair because I figured I wouldn't be using this in today's video. I wanted to test out the other products. So that's what we're going to be doing today. But I wanted to show you just a reality check of how my hair looks most of the time. So it's very stretched out, it's very frizzy. I don't even know if the frizz is picking up on camera, but I just wanted to show you how normal frizz is. A lot of times we are just really trying to fix it, which I totally get. I'm always trying to fix my frizz too, and there's nothing wrong with trying to reduce it. But just know that everyone experiences frizz and it's normal to have it. I mean, I have it all the time and there's a lot of things that I do to help with it, but overall, my hair usually is frizzy unless if I just styled it. So I'm actually about to dry detangle my hair. It's really not that tangly because, as I mentioned, I just washed it and applied a little bit of that curl cream or leave-in, whatever it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish dry detangling my hair, and then I'm gonna hop in the shower and use the shampoo and the conditioner in the line. So here's what they look like. This is the curl shampoo for waves, curls, and coils, and then I have the curl conditioner, which also says it's for all curl types. Okay, so I just shampooed and conditioned my hair, and it's starting to air dry because I went and did my makeup, and now I'm ready to apply my stylers. But I wanted to give you a little first impression on the shampoo and conditioner. I wasn't that impressed with the shampoo. It actually has a conditioner formula, so it looked like conditioner when it was coming out, but it did lather up more than like a co-wash would. So I did like that and it felt very moisturizing, but I noticed that I still had some residue on my scalp after I first shampooed. So I had to do 2 shampoos, which I guess if it's meant to be just a very gentle shampoo, almost like a co-wash or just a mild low poo, then I guess that makes sense. But for me, I want like to get a good cleanse usually. So I didn't like how I had to wash my hair twice. The conditioner was great. I thought it was very moisturizing and had a lot of slip, which is interesting because I've heard other people review it and say it doesn't have much slip, but I found that it had plenty of slip, so that worked fine for me. I was happy with it. So now for the styling products, there's actually 4 different versions of the styling products. This is the wave curl enhancer that I mentioned that I tried earlier this week. It was okay. I mean, it didn't do anything for my hair other than provide moisture, so I think it's more of a leave-in. There's also this curl definer, which says it's for curls, so this is probably what I'm going to use. It says it's a conditioning styler, so this is probably more for my curly hair type. And then there's also this curl elongator, which says that it's for coils, so it says it's also a conditioning styler, so I guess this is more of like a curl cream or butter. So we're gonna go with the curl definer, which says it's for curls, and then we also have the curl defining gel, which there's just one version of this, and then we also have the curl moisturizing shine oil, which is for all hair types. So I'm going to wet down my hair and also get started with the questions. So there was a lot of questions about wet frizz, and I've done a whole video all about the causes of wet frizz, and then I also have another one on how to fix it, so it's more of a routine. So I recommend checking those out, but one thing I wanted to mention about wet frizz is you want to make sure your hair is evenly wet. You could see how frizzy my hair was just a minute ago because it was starting to dry in different areas. So if you do like to damp style like I do, you'll just want to make sure you have a spray bottle on hand to kind of help spray your hair to make sure it's evenly wet, because you don't want to have areas that are starting to dry and look frizzy. So one of the questions says, I still get wet frizz even after clarifying and deep conditioning. What could it be? So I definitely recommend checking out that video just because it lists out all the common causes, because it can be a number of different things. I always recommend to clarify and deep condition for any type of hair problems because that usually can reset your hair and give your hair some moisture. So that usually does the trick, but wet frizz is so common. Like, I still have wet frizz. You really can't completely get rid of it. And in that wet frizz video, I just go over all the common causes so that way you can eliminate any of those causes if you're really struggling with it. But if you've eliminated all of those causes that I listed and you're still having wet frizz, then it's probably just how it is. Like if you have a lot of shorter hairs all over your head, whether if it's from breakage or new growth, you're going to have wet frizz. Just because you have those shorter hairs that are kind of sticking out every which way. Not all the hairs are gonna lay flat, especially if you have a tighter curl pattern, it's gonna just lay all over the place. One thing that's really helped me is just kind of combing through my hair after I finished rinsing out my conditioner, and then kind of just like squishing it to squeeze it out instead of like roping it or completely wringing out my hair. So that leaves some moisture in, and I'm just kind of like scrunching it with the water in once I've rinsed out my deep conditioner or my conditioner, and that really helps a lot. Also, rinsing in the upright position has helped me a lot, which that's obviously not possible if you're deep conditioning out of the shower, but if you're in the shower, it helps so much to just do that upright, and I get way less wet frizz as opposed to flipping my head over and then trying to rinse, and then I end up with a ton of wet frizz. So just try that if you're not already. So the next question says, is it true the more you deep condition, the less frizz? Not always. As I mentioned, I do all of the things to my hair. I deep condition religiously once a week, sometimes even twice, and I still have wet frizz. It's totally normal, and as long as you are styling to reduce the frizz, then I wouldn't really worry about it because it's not gonna show up after you've styled your hair anyways. I actually like this pump style quite a bit. Okay, so it looks like very creamy, like not too thick. So the next question says, how do I know if my hair is frizzy from lack of moisture or protein? So both of these do show up as frizz, so it is really hard to tell. Usually with lack of protein, your hair will just kind of look limp and just not have any bounce to it, like it doesn't really bounce back up, and it's just frizzy because it has so much moisture. It almost looks dry sometimes. But then the same goes for lack of moisture. If your hair is lacking moisture, it can also look very frizzy and dry, and it's more brittle feeling, like it's a little bit more straw-like feeling compared to mushy feeling. So it's both a feeling, and also you can do a stretch test, which is the easiest way to tell and the most foolproof way to tell whether if you need moisture or protein is do a stretch test. I actually show you how to do this in another video all about protein and moisture balance of how to do that. That's really the only way to tell if your hair needs protein or moisture. So protein and moisture is not this like balance that just keeps going from one end of the other. A lot of times you need some of both. It's not always one full end of the spectrum or the other. So that's kind of a misconception a lot of times with protein and moisture balance. It's not always a balance. Sometimes you need a little bit of both. So I hope that answers your question. I basically would do the stretch test to really tell. So this curl cream has a lot of slip. It feels very nice and moisturizing. Doesn't feel like it's weighing it down. Next question says, frizz at the crown and back of the head. So this is probably due to breakage. That's where I see the most in terms of having frizz in this area, especially if you wear your hair up a lot. This area of the head and just the outside and the back in general gets a lot of friction from like your pillow, so make sure you're sleeping on a satin or silk pillowcase, and then protecting your curls at night. There's tons of causes of breakage, which I've also done a full video on, and there I list out everything that could be causing breakage. So if you have like short little pieces all over, those usually show up as frizz because they're not like grouping into the rest of your hair, and so you might get a lot of halo frizz and frizz in the back of your head just from that friction. And also make sure you're applying your products all the way up to the top. Like I do take my products all the way up to the top, and it doesn't get too weighed down. I find that I do need that moisture in the top area. Somebody asked frizz control without weighing down. So when it comes to leave-ins, that leave-in or that cream I just used was actually pretty lightweight. I also recommend the Curlsmith weightless air dry cream. I use this all the time, so I have it right here. This is a very lightweight leave-in conditioner. It also kind of acts like a cream. And then when it comes to getting more hold, so more frizz control without weighing down your hair, I would look for very liquidy, watery gels. So I just grabbed some very lightweight options for gels that I recommend that do a great job at controlling frizz. So I have the Dove Amplified Textures Shine and Moisture Finishing Gel. This gives me really great frizz control. It's like medium to strong hold, and it's very affordable, so it's very lightweight and liquidy. And then the Weedad gel is very similar, but even higher quality. This lasts even longer on my hair. And this one also controls frizz and humidity, and it's very liquidy and lightweight. And I've also been testing this new one a lot recently from Weedad. It's the Coil Infusion Good Shape. So this is also a very lightweight liquidy gel. This one's a little bit thicker than this one. So some really great lightweight options. We'll see how this next gel is from Living Proof. And I'll list everything for you down below, as well as on the blog post that goes with this video. I think I'm gonna section. I haven't sectioned my hair in a while. So the next question says, I have a few curls on one side of my head that are always frizzy. Why is this? Any tips to fix? So the first thing that comes to mind is, do you have more breakage in that area, or do you have a lot of like flyaways around the hairline, which is super common? If so, you can try some brush styling to kind of fine tune it and kind of tuck that frizz into curl clumps. Here's the gel that I'm going in with. I actually just posted a Reels over on Instagram yesterday all about this, so I will link that for you. But basically I show you a trick to kind of tuck that frizz in any problem areas into curl clumps. Feels like a medium weight gel. It's not the most lightweight that I've ever felt. So brush styling is game changing for me when it comes to frizz, especially if you have very tangly hair. If you have high porosity hair, it just naturally is going to have wet frizz. So using a styling brush has really helped me just kind of smooth down the hairs and tame any frizz. I'm worried I use too much product, so I'm definitely going to scrunch with my hair towel. I'm gonna go with a little bit less for this section. One thing I also wanted to mention is make sure you are taking your gel all the way up to the root, especially. So if you don't want your hair to get weighed down, you could skip applying your cream up at the root because creams are a little heavier, but definitely take your gel all the way up, especially if you're experiencing a lot of root frizz. So the next question says, frizz control without the crunch. This is tough because one of my biggest suggestions for any kind of frizz is make sure you're using a stronghold gel, because it's really the only way to really tame frizz. But if you don't like stronghold, well, I would recommend using a stronghold gel and then just scrunching out the gel cast. I get the best results when I do that. Use a stronghold gel and then I just scrunch out the cast, and I have frizz protection, but it's not crunchy because I've scrunched it out. And if it still doesn't scrunch out, then you use too much gel. But if you really want to use a lighter hold gel, I would recommend that We Dad one, the coil infusion one that I just showed. That one is a medium hold. The Curlsmith Styling Souffle is another good buildable option. So it's more of like a medium to firm hold, but it's definitely buildable. But if you use too much, it's definitely going to be harder to scrunch out. And then also the Curlsmith Shape Up Aqua Gel, so the protein gel, the purple one, that's a really great, very lightweight option, but that one's probably not going to tame a lot of frizz if you really struggle with frizz, because that one's very lightweight. So the next question says baby hair frizz. So I have baby hairs right here, so I was just gonna show you some little brush styling tips. I would take a little bit of gel like this and really try and focus it on those areas, so you can even kind of make sure you're grabbing those baby hairs and just focus some gel right there, and then take your styling brush and make sure you're picking up those hairs in the brush. And for me, this hair actually curls towards my face, so make sure you're curling towards the right direction. And then just use your brush to curl it, and then I also kind of finger twirl. See, I get a nice root lift too when I get very close to the root like that. And that just helps group that frizz into a curl clump, which really helps reduce it. So it's kind of taming it and forming it into a ringlet instead of just letting it be wild. So that's a little trick. So the other question along with the baby hair one was hairline and what frames my face. So that's kind of what I just showed, is really just doing some brush styling. And if you don't want to use a brush, I would try finger coiling, because that can help kind of group that frizz. And just make sure you're applying product all the way up. You need to get the gel in that area because that's going to help tame the frizz. So you guys mentioned you like seeing these very detailed tips, so I wanted to show you something. If you were doing some brush styling like this and you're still noticing frizz or just not clumping, pay attention to where you've actually picked up the hair. But that clump that I did didn't really form a clump because I picked up these hairs that are like from all across, and they don't really group together very good. So instead, I should probably pick up a piece that's like all within the same curl family. So let me just show you the difference. Okay, so I picked up kind of like a circular piece that's a little bit smaller. And that is grouping together much better compared to picking up a larger piece or a piece that goes across different like curl families that don't want to group together because they're all different curl patterns and they go in different directions. So if you look at where it kind of is separating, like kind of loosen it up and look, if it's separating, then separate that and do separate ringlets. And I get a much better clumped result if I pick up a smaller piece instead of trying to do it all at once. I don't do this all over, by the way, just in any areas that I want to fine tune, like around my face. Now that it is fully styled, I'm ready to go diffuse my hair, and I'm gonna answer some more questions about frizz when you're diffusing. So for my diffuser and hairdryer, I'm using the Shark Hyper Air, and I'm going to plop diffuse first and then do some upright diffusing. So the first question about frizz during diffusing says, I struggle with frizz when I'm in a hurry and I can't take the time to diffuse slow enough. So one tip that I wanted to suggest is just to diffuse for at least like 5 minutes if you can, or just until you feel that gel cast start to set, because once your hair starts to develop that cast, you can really just air dry the rest of the way because the curls get set into their place. So you would get that definition from diffusing, and then you could always head out the door after that and just finish air drying. I would just avoid going out in any wind or any extreme humidity or extreme dryness, because if your hair is still wet, then that can just lead to frizz. So the next question says, the top layer of my hair always gets frizzy when I diffuse. So make sure that you're using a strong enough hold gel. I know I keep suggesting this for every answer about frizz, but it's really the only way to ensure that your curls will not develop frizz when you're diffusing is if you use a strong hold gel. Because anytime that I've only used a curl cream or a very light hold gel or like a foam, I always end up with a ton of frizz whenever I'm diffusing because the air is just breaking up what little gel cast you have and then the frizz is developing. You can also try the plop and hover method like I just showed a minute ago, because then you're able to get definition from your curls being plopped, but then you can hover and avoid touching the diffuser too much to your hair. Another thing you can test out is try just air drying for a little bit and then diffusing, or do the opposite and go straight to diffusing and see if that helps. One last suggestion, the design of this Shark diffuser has really helped reduce frizz for me because it doesn't touch my hair too much. As you can see, it's not fully touching my hair, it's really just the prongs that are touching my hair, versus like a traditional diffuser design where the rim and the bowl of the diffuser is just touching the hair all over and it's not very deep. So if you're not using a very good design diffuser, that could also be causing frizz. All right, my hair is probably 98% dry. So the cast feels like a medium hold gel to me. Like I definitely do have a cast that I can scrunch out. So now I'm going to go in with the Curl Moisturizing Shine Oil. This says it's silicone free, which I think all these products are. I always check for you all. So it looks like a yellow, very runny type of oil. So normally I wouldn't really scrunch out this cast. I would just leave it, especially because it's later in the day. But I do want to test out this oil for y'all. But I don't want to scrunch out too much. So this gel you can definitely completely scrunch out. Wow, I have a lot of volume, which is nice. So I just want to kind of touch up some of the pieces that are frizzy, and I want to see if this gel will reactivate with water. So usually if I can just wet a piece and then let it dry. If it dries with the cast back, then I know that the gel can be reactivated with water, which usually will also tell you that it has enough hold to where you can scrunch out the cast and it won't frizz up on you. All right, so yes, they did reactivate. Not to like a strong cast, but I got a little bit more like that medium cast back. So that's nice. That always makes it really easy when refreshing, if you can just refresh with water. So I definitely have a lot of shine, which I had great shine too before I even used the oil. So now that my hair is completely set and it's ready to go, it definitely still has quite a bit of volume. I definitely have like a texture to my hair, but it hasn't fallen flat or anything, which is really nice. I still feel like I have good volume. I wanted to answer a few questions about dealing with frizz after you have scrunched out the crunch, because I got quite a few questions about this and I totally know what you mean. So the first one says, after I break the cast, frizz forms within minutes and I end up with total frizz by the end of the day. So there's a few things that can cause this, and the number one culprit is just not having a good gel or a gel that is strong enough hold. As I mentioned with this Living Proof gel, I really wanted to see if it could be reactivated with water, and if it had a strong enough hold, then it would reactivate, and then I know that I'm not just gonna end up with a bunch of frizz after I scrunch it out. However, if you are experiencing this, even with a really good stronghold gel, like even one of my favorites that you know is a good gel, and you're still experiencing this, then it could be anything from product application, like maybe you didn't use enough, maybe you had too much water in your hair when you applied it, so your gel got very diluted, so it didn't end up giving you very much hold. And sometimes it's just not the right gel for your hair. A lot of times people with low porosity hair might not like the same gels as somebody like me with higher porosity hair because they're not absorbing into your hair. So there's a lot of factors. The best thing I can recommend is just experimenting. It's really that trial and error that can help you problem solve. And also sometimes if your hair is just very dry, or if it's damaged, or if you're transitioning, this happens a lot and you just need to keep that cast in. When I was transitioning, my hair got so frizzy, so I really kind of went with the cast. As you guys might remember, my hair a lot of times had more of a cast in it, and that's because I just love definition and I didn't really like how my hair was frizzy because it was still damaged. But now that it's gotten healthier, I'm able to wear a softer look and I can scrunch out a lot more of the cast and it doesn't just frizz up because it's a lot healthier underneath the products. Overall, my final thoughts on the Living Proof products, I'm gonna see how my hair looks tomorrow. I might even check in with you guys over on Instagram if you wanna see how they held up for me. I'm really curious to see how it works on next day hair. I mean, I really liked my results, but I don't know if I can justify the price. These are very pricey products, and for me, when I compare it to one of my favorite brands like Curlsmith or Ouidad that have more of that $20 price range, I get great results with those products, so I can't justify recommending these. There's so many great other brands that give me good results, so there wasn't anything that was super stand out to me that it was like, you have to run out and get this right now. It's completely worth the high price tag. So that's just my opinion. I was just checking to see if I have any flakes because I use quite a bit of gel. I'm seeing a little bit. Oh, I do have flakes. Now that I look closer, that must be why I can feel like that texture on my hair that's giving me a lot of volume. I do have some flakes, so I don't know about that. Maybe I used too much product. I'm sure I did. It's not very obvious. Like, I'm not seeing big flakes. Like, I don't think anyone would notice it, but my other gels that I love don't cause flakes for me. So I don't know. If you guys have tried these products, definitely let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. And if you recommend them or what you like or don't like about them, I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you liked this video, I think you might also be interested in the last wash day Q&A that I did. We talked all about questions related to having low density or thin hair and getting more volume and fullness in your hair. So I'll talk to you over in that video, and I will see you back next week. Bye everyone.